recording on. Have a little, they're always recorded and on YouTube. This one is a little different. There's another meeting going on tying up our audio visual. So we're recording 3 teams this month. So just be aware of that. The video will not be available on YouTube, but we'll somehow share it through Teams and figure that out, how to do that. Carla, are you with us and do you have audio? I think you've got the first couple of cases and we can get started.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
You're very low. See if you can turn the volume up or get closer to the mic.
Right now.
Try that again.
Right now.
Still low. And let me ask real quick. Do we have Seth Moore with us? Is anyone else here to speak about Havernick Place, Martineer Place, or Walker Place? If not, those are carryovers. So if not, we can move forward. All those are dealing with fire protection. All right. How about we'll come back to that and ask before we close the meeting just to make sure. But we will skip items A, B, and C for now and move to item D, SD 20.43. That is Morbrook subdivision.
Okay, can you hear me?
I can.
Okay. So for the Laurelbrook subdivision, I did send out a cover letter on yesterday just pointing out a few items that still needed to be addressed. Those items included the provision of dimensions and details for the proposed treehouse, provision of a wetland delineation letter, and lastly, to clarify if the request was for preliminary plat approval for one or both phases of the development. Also, it was just reminded that Mr. Jason Langley had some deficiencies that he pointed out in a previous cover, and to my understanding, that information has been received by Mr. Langley, but we just wanted to remind the applicant that the planning department needs a copy of those revisions as well by the 14th of this month. I did receive a response from Mr. Britt in regards to all of these things that were pointed out, and it has been confirmed that the revisions will be received by the deadline of the 14th. And that's all I have.
Okay, thank you, Samara. Any questions on the comments received or any other outstanding questions? We'll be happy to answer.
No, Hunter, this is Justin. I don't have any comments. John may have some. I think he just.
I have. This is John Avent with TerraCore. Good morning.
Good morning.
One of the comments was a wetland letter. We have no wetlands on this site.
I provided him with that, John. We have
Right.
a letter for no jurisdictional wetlands, and I gave that to Samara yesterday.
Correct. I did receive that on yesterday.
All right. I just want to clarify that.
Okay. Anything else on Laurelbrook? Okay. All right. SD 20.53, and this is the mixed-use development site plan. We'll site plan and MOP. We'll kind of combine those in the next 2 agenda items in the same conversation for Magnolia and Church mixed-use development. Mike and I are sharing a computer in here, so let me get a second to pull information up. And I'm going to hand the mic over to Mike. There you go, Mike. Let me see if we can get these plans. Wires untangled. And plans pulled up. You can go ahead if you want to start an introduction.
So this is a project that we've looked at previously. It's located on the northeast corner of Magnolia and Church. It's a 10-unit multiple occupancy project. Larry received the email correspondence yesterday, and we're currently reviewing those items. I'm going to get some correspondence back to you.
Okay, there's no.
We'd seen the site plan before. It's built property line to property line on Magnolia and Church. There were some concerns with some of the trees that were in the right of way along there. There's also the city project along Church Street that is going to be coincided with this project here. The city has revised some of their plans to save the same trees in the right of way. There was also discussion about the commercial use, and I think the last I heard was there was going to be an additional commercial added on Magnolia on one of those units there. So Larry, if you have any comments on any changes that you know of that you're working on for a submittal, be happy to help answer any questions that we can at this point.
Yeah, basically the main thing is that we wanted the email we sent yesterday. We were kind of outlining what we thought were the outstanding issues and kind of laying out, our proposed course of action. And I think you said in the beginning that y'all were reviewing it and y'all were going to respond. So as soon as y'all can do that, that'd be great. Since we can get this turned around. We're in the process of getting the tree canopy surveyed and getting the surveyor to, differentiate between the two trunks of the tree in question along Church Street. And I also spoke with Sawgrass yesterday just to go over the utility connections. And they're going to get those coordinated where we were tying in, so that work can hopefully go seamlessly and not have to open cut the road. I think after talking with them yesterday, we need to add a Dog House Manhole to our plans. That's something that Jason Langley has requested. So we don't have, it won't be the lateral tying into the existing sewer main out there. It'll be a Dog House Manhole. So we'll get that correction made. And like I said, if we can, go over those items and get a response, that'd be great.
Okay.
Email.
And do you know the answer? And we will certainly do that, so you can have that in a response for us. One of the I know confirmation for some of those questions was kind of depending on what we received in the request of revised plans. And one of those questions, do you know on the northernmost on Church Street, the trees in the right of way, northernmost trees, do you know, is the request still going to be to remove all of those trees, or is there any preservation? Because I think the arborist report said if you trim it, you got to take it out. Is there any preservation of those trees?
I do not know. I'm looking to see if Vance is on this call that he could answer that question.
Okay. Some of those questions depend on what the answer to that is. So that's what we were asking for clarification and revisions even back in December. So that if you can get that, even that one, that would help us answer your questions.
Sorry, my phone was ringing, so I muted it so y'all didn't have to listen to all that.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, I'll get that clarified. Like I said, we're getting the surveyor back out there, and he's also going to take a lot more spot elevations around the root mound area of the trees so that we can minimize any disturbance in that area. And we're going to do a pervious concrete for the sidewalk that's going to be going over those root mound areas. And so we'll definitely clarify which trees we're proposing to remove and which trees the proposals to trim.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Uh-huh.
Mike, did you have anything?
Well, I just wanted to throw out a date, Larry. So if we're going to try to I don't know what time frame is for when you think you can have those revisions in. January 26th is the regular scheduled submittal deadline for the March Planning Commission. I'm just trying to get a feel for what's your target date that we're looking at trying to hit for getting revisions in to be reviewed.
Well, we'd love to stay on the agenda we're currently on. So whatever that deadline is.
Probably the 14th would be the most desirable. That's when all the comments for the meeting are due back from them. Does that sound feasible? Is that some of you think you can hit that date?
Again, let me talk. See, Vance is now on, so he might be able to answer your question on the trees, but it really just depends on when the surveyor can get me the revised information.
Yeah, this is Vance. Can you hear me?
We can.
They're physically here right now, and they're giving me spot elevations from the base of the tree to the top of curb. They're doing the canopies. They're measuring the trees, and so I think Hunter Smith is in good shape to get that to us as early as Monday.
Okay, great.
So
We're also going to take a spot elevation from the center line of the carport to the top of curb and just have those slopes and grades clearly defined for design. I would point out, I think, and Richard, I see you, I don't see anybody else, but I don't, and I apologize, I just got on here, but was there a discussion previously about the sidewalks, Richard, or something I should?
Richard just got on as well. So no, we did have one question, and what we received a list from Larry within the last couple of days. We will reply to that.
Yeah.
Some of those answers depend on one thing that we're still quite a little unsure of. The trees in the right of way, northernmost trees on Church Street. Is the request to remove those trees? You know, whether there were one or two, there's the fork tree and then another trunk.
Okay, so let me let you finish. I'm sorry. So
No, just that is we're not sure if those are all being requested to be removed or pruned.
no, let me maybe try to clarify that. The twin tree, just talking to the surveyor like 5 minutes ago, they missed. They did not record those properly. So one of the twin trees actually leans directly to the property line, and that would probably be a request for that side of that tree, if it's a twin tree, to be removed. That would be the northernmost pair. It's a pair, literally.
Mm-hmm.
The northernmost tree, though, that's identified as 36 inches would stay.
Okay.
The next tree is a tree that it's a smaller one. I don't know, it's 20 something inches, but it leans directly to the property line also. So there's not much foliage in the right of way. It's mostly on our property. That's the one that in the conversation 2 years ago with Paul he said, this tree really ought to come out anyway. And I know this is just verbal, and I'm not trying to suggest or put him into a trap of what he said and what I said and that kind of thing. I'm just repeating the fact that, and so therefore that's where one of the driveways ended up, is where that tree is in the design. The next tree has no intention of taking it out, and that one would be pruned. So that leaves effectively 2 large trees on Church Street to be pruned and 2 coming out requesting. On Magnolia and Church, the predominant trees of the site, those trees, as we all know, have had sidewalks and everything all over them for years. They desperately need a lot of attention, as I pointed out, and that was what was pointed out in my first letter from the arborist. And he said, what we ought to do is, knowing and when this is going to take place, we really ought to do the pruning, we ought to do the fertilizing, we ought to do everything to bring these trees back up to its healthiest condition prior to construction. And so we would hope to be able to do that equally. In other words, if we could get a site plan approval and we knew we were going to go forward, and that the tree permit that I had to remove now the one tree on site was subject to site plan approval. So what I'd like to see us do is come in and prune the trees, clean them up, fertilize them, get all the right of way cleaned up, trees cleaned up, whether that's our expense or the city's expense. I would, with all that Richard went through with the trees on Fair Oak Avenue, I understand there's a very sensitive nature to trees, but and I'm not judging or criticizing anybody. These trees on this right of way have not been maintained. I mean, that's just pure and simple. They're not treated the same way the trees are on Fair Oak Avenue. They need to be maintained. They need to be fertilized. They need to be improved, and we'd like to be a part of that. So that answers that question. The next thing I'm going to say is that if you look at the tree that was done, I know what's been done is not precedence to what should be done. The tree just north of us, in the way the sidewalk was put in, is probably the only way we're going to be able to put in a sidewalk if the city still wants a sidewalk based on the way these root systems have grown in the right of way. So if we took a standard 1/2 inch per foot in the grass and a 1/4 inch per foot on the sidewalk and came 9 feet, or that would be 2 plus 6 is 8 feet from the top of curb, then you've only got 4 or 5 inches that you can rise and still maintain the right side slope of the sidewalk. We're going to find that we're 2 feet high. And what they did down there, just north of us, really ought to have a rail. And right now, that sidewalk is 10 inches above top of curb, 4 inches away from it. Well, that's not a 3-to-1 side slope on an ADA sidewalk. So I think that's what I apologize for my nature, my demeanor in all this. That was frankly what would have been trying to convey, is that yes, it's going to take a meeting out there with right of way and say, here's the only way to put a sidewalk in, and here's the way to make it ADA. It's just kind of hard to understand that we have to do all this to get a site plan approved, but that's neither here nor there. That's not y'all's problem. That's a city-wide issue. So I'm going to have a 2-foot grade from the base of the tree to the top of curb. Every 2 feet we'll have a spot elevation. It'll show the exact profile from base of tree to top of sidewalk at each tree location and at each of our proposed driveway locations, so that we can look at it, Richard, and say, okay, here's the grade, here's the roots. But the next thing we want to do is, in my letter too, is to get an air drill and air drill and find the major roots in those areas and take down, based on the arborist recommendation, whatever growth that's there, topsoils or whatever, and work around the roots, and then put an impervious paving over it and do everything we can to protect the trees. So I think there's a lot to do with the reason that the city didn't put in sidewalks all the way down Church Street is for the same reason that the sidewalk can be very difficult here. We can't have both. We either have retainer walls and handrails with sidewalks up 2 or 3 feet above top of curb all the way along Church Street on the east side, or we don't put sidewalks in. So that was why Larry's question was, do you really want a sidewalk? I'd like to have a sidewalk, frankly. And I know that it can be worked out engineering wise and also save the trees. I just know it will be. I've done it too many times before to know that it can be. So that's the answer to that. And if there's something else I can add to it, I'd love to.
Thank you, Vance. Was somebody else? Did somebody else have a question, Larry?
I didn't. I just want to correct one word. He said impervious pavement on top of it. We've used pervious concrete over those root areas.
Okay. Perfect.
But no, I'm good with everything he said.
I think putting the sidewalk in and making that connection, because I think there will be future development, and we've already north of you, and having that sidewalk is important if it takes a handrail, and I support that. So I applaud you for working through those issues with us. And we'll be happy to answer any questions. We'll respond via email and take a look, and maybe that we do have some. There's been some roots cut on sidewalk adjacent to sidewalks around the city. There may be another option there. So when we see those plans, we can take a look at those and see if there's other options available to us. So I appreciate your help.
Well, let me add, I hate to carry on, but let me add one thing, is that we did move the building 5 feet off the property line for those larger trees on the corner. And we want to maintain the directive in the tree ordinance of staying 5 feet away with the foundation wall, as long as the rest of the 306 or whatever it is, 180 degrees, whatever it's written, is clear. So when I mentioned the helical piers, that's for the area strictly on the corner where the 2 larger trees are, because I know that those roots have already been compromised towards the road, and we don't want to lose the trees. And so what we're going to do is air drill and keep our foundation 20 feet away from those trees on the corner. The trees I just spoke, that's where the air drill, that's where the air drill and the helical piers came in. As far as the foundation along Church Street, I don't think it's required. This is what you brought up, Hunter, and I respect the question is, are you going to really suspend all these driveways and all that? And the answer with that is no. So what we want to do is air drill and then precision, cut the roots at 5 feet away on it where our foundation goes on our property line, and then look at the grades and be sure we can drive into those garages. But I'm going to have those spot elevations at the center line of those garages on this drawing, as well as on 2 foot spacing from property line, existing grade property line, to the curb on the center line of both those driveways, as well as what I mentioned on the trees.
Okay, thank you. And yeah, that was most of our maybe it was our confusion, but the looking at the northernmost trees, which being saved, which is not. So are we preserving trees, or do we even have anything to preserve, was kind of the root of some of those questions. So I think the direction y'all are going is great. There was one question on the email. I will say, if you can do it, what you're providing is great, Larry. What we talked about before, Vance got on the call with the tree survey, the canopies, all that is great. You may want to add one photo. One of the questions in the email, are the photos sufficient? And if you are preserving that northernmost tree, then you might want to add one photo showing where that would be trimmed like you did on the other ones, and that's based on my memory. I don't think you can see that one from the other photos you provided. Where you're holding the level, you're holding levels up.
Okay.
You're exactly right. You'd have to look through the first tree to see the second tree. I'll get one of just that tree.
Okay, thank you. All right.
Thank you.
Any other questions on Magnolia and Church?
No, I don't.
I'm sorry. Hold on.
What was the?
I'm sorry. I should have made a note. It just went through and came in one side and went out the other. If you give me one second, I'm sorry.
Vance, while you're thinking, Larry, just on your inquiry, we did meet with Sawgrass. We meet every Friday morning at 8 o'clock. He should have the updated drawings for the change of the drainage there at the corner of Magnolia and Church. And I'm going to send you an email and include Jay Robertson, and he's going to coordinate with you directly, because they have completed the utility step outs revisions, as well as they're finishing up the drainage. So you'll get those as soon as they have it done. Okay.
All right. Thanks, Richard.
Okay, Vance, if you need to, we can come back around if you want to take a minute. We got 2 more pages of cases. But certainly don't want to skip it until you're ready. Skip to the next one until you're ready.
Go ahead. I hope it'll come back to me.
Before we get off the call, I'll check with you again, okay?
Yes, sir. Thank you very much.
Yes, sir. Did anyone join us for Sibley Place? SD 21.01. Okay, that was another, we're just kind of waiting on some fire protection information. So we'll move down to SD 21.03. That is public hearing to consider the request of 68 Ventures Pay Dirt for Carmel Park Flats, 24 unit multiple occupancy project. That's going to be Mike. And I'm going to hand the mic over to Mike and pull up some plans. What do you need me to?
That very
Okay. let's share this screen and we will.
While he's pulling that up, I'm going to share the screen. I said this is Carmel Park Flats. It's located on Twin Beach Road or County Road 44 across from Thompson Hall. It's a 242 unit apartment complex that's being installed. We had discussed it previously. Some of the comments were about fire protection and the widths of roads and entrances to allow for that. Those have been revised. The roads have been widened, I believe, to the 26 feet that was required, and the entrances widened to allow access for the fire trucks to get in or out 2 different ways. I know some of the comments, the drawing that we have on screen was one that Larry, you had sent me with comments from the county for the turn lanes going into it. We have also received information on the TIS report, and we're reviewing that currently, and we'll have comments back to that. Thank you for including the extra intersections on there and enlarging that study just a little bit. This is a very dense development that is going into an area that is doesn't have those density numbers in that area, so we wanted to make sure we were capturing everything we could. I know Baldwin County, have they had any other additional comments besides what they've done with the comeback here? I heard, I think it was going to be on a meeting last night and then was pulled off the agenda or tabled for another meeting.
Baldwin County Planning Department is not going to be reviewing that case, so I think the better question, what we don't know is Baldwin County Highway Department still reviewing anything that we need to get comments on and need to share if so, has the TIS report been shared with them?
Yes. No, this is county road, so they will still have control over our access. Prior to us being pulled, not pulled out of the agenda, let me first clarify that. It was determined that Baldwin County new position is they will not be reviewing any of these type of projects, what they call the PRDs, for areas other than the ETJ of another municipality that's already reviewing it. It's kind of like double jeopardy, and that's why it was pulled off the agenda, not for a later date. It will not go to their planning commission. It will still go through an administrative review at the county to make sure it meets their standards. It just won't have a public hearing. But the second part of that is yes, Highway Department has been given the updated traffic study, but even before they got the updated traffic study, their comments had already been addressed with the turn lanes, and so they were already given us the green light for the planning commission before we got pulled. But yes, we did give them an updated traffic study.
And one of the comments I know without a full review, and John, I think thanks for the summary on that. The adding, I believe, and I might misquote here, so correct me if I'm wrong. It was recommended of a 4-way stop at Booth and Twin Beach. Just so y'all know what the Fairhopes Traffic Committee met a month ago, and there was concerns about not only that intersection but others. And the council president asked the mayor to set up committee meetings to handle some of those things, and that is being scheduled. This is not the only pedestrian concern or traffic concern that is had, but those are being scheduled. So we were looking at our own issues for that intersection too, so we might need to coordinate solutions in the future. I don't have a date for that committee meeting yet, or nor results, but that, just know that is upcoming as well.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure that recommendation for the 4-way stop is with or without this development, but I'm glad to know the city already obviously is aware of it and looking to some solution, because I drive that stretch of Twin Beach every day. I live on one end and I work on the other end. And I actually come out at Booth and Twin Beach every morning. So I do see the issue. Some mornings it's great and I can get right out, and other mornings it's a hard intersection to deal with. So
It's been brought up at not only the traffic committee, but also the bike ped committee has been discussing that intersection. We'll keep you informed when we have the committee meeting and any conversations about that. Anything else, Mike?
Only other comment, I know that you've been working with Jason Langley on the sewer for the development, and there's some potential upgrades. Jason, are you with us?
I am.
All right. So if you got any comments or anything that you get,
Well, I do. I would like to talk to Mr. Smith again, Larry, or again on the sewer. I did up most of the night doing research on this because of that availability letter came prior to me coming to Fairhope, but and being in this position. But have you all looked at the feasibility of gravitying this development back to Woodlawn?
Driving it back to Woodlawn.
Hey, Larry, this
Yeah.
is John Avent and Jason. What happened was Richard Peterson had some areas, the gravity flow back to Woodlawn went through some easements, and the easements would go through private property. Assuming, even if you assume that you can get the easements, the depth of the gravity sewer and the destruction of trees and property, it would take not a 20-foot easement, it would probably take a 50-foot easement or 20-foot permanent easement with a 50-foot construction easement. And then you would have to cross over and tie in to a gravity line and tear out roads and everything else in Woodlawn. I guess to sum it up, that the hurdles would be you would have to get easements from adjacent private property owners, and it would be pretty substantial type construction to get to that gravity manhole in Woodlawn.
Okay. I haven't been out there yet. Curtis and I were going out there after lunch and look at all this. But anyway, it was just something that had come to our thoughts on it, and going back looking through some of the exchanges before I came on this project.
Yes, and I don't think it was, I think it was looked at on a paper napkin type situation rather than a full, how can it really be constructed? It'd be very difficult. Then again, in our plan, Larry, you should jump in anytime, but on our plan right now, we have a lift station that ties into the Twin Beach force main. And then again, Jason, our conversation last night, there is another alternative if you are uncomfortable with that force main. So,
well, we looked at the alternative, and I thought about that after our conversation. We looked at that going through Long Branch, but this would, if it has to go, this would be the best way for right now, is to tie onto the force main like you all had originally drew it up.
okay. Well, I guess that's where we are right now. We're proposing to tie to the force main. If there's, my other question would be, Jason, if the city requires us to gravity flow into Woodlawn, who would get the easements from the private property owners? I feel very comfortable we would not be able to get that.
Right. Like I say, I'm gonna go out there after lunch and we'll move on with this the way you've got it.
Right.
And then, well, we can have further conversations on the sewer part. But for right now, I think we just need to move forward the way you've got it drawn up.
Yes, sir. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. And just this is kind of one of those where as the planning department, we kind of get in the middle of some of these sometimes, and just know that we kind of need anything for the planning commission case. We need some semblance of a solution before the 14th, so we can get everything together for the planning commissioners and get that. And I know that's a quick turnaround, but just if you can help us out on that, we always appreciate that.
I'll have my opinion to you this afternoon.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you, Jason.
Yes, sir.
Thanks, Jason.
I will mention this other thing, and just because there is a lot of public outcry on this project, y'all seen it where it's not a secret. And we got a letter before we sent comments last month. And Larry, I applaud your answer, not replying to attorneys that I understand. It doesn't negate the questions out there. And I think it's beneficial to answer those, because what a lot of the public doesn't understand is the difference between zone and unzoned. If those questions came from me or staff, would that give you more of a comfort level to answer?
I fully expect to have to answer those questions at the planning commission meeting. If it doesn't come from that letter, it's going to come from the audience and from individuals. I mean, a lot of those are things that every time we're at the planning commission, it's the things the planning commission people say they can't ask. We can't talk about property values. We can't talk about some of these items. So a lot of them are just items that aren't normally brought up because the planning commission can't ask those type of questions.
Yes.
Other things are, I think, statements and not necessarily any proven fact. A lot of it revolved around traffic. I think we've gone over and above on traffic now to see what the impacts of this development are going to be. And we've studied the whole corridor of Twin Beach Road from 181 to 98. So, yeah, I mean, I'm perfectly willing to answer y'all's questions to me. And I answered at the community meeting. I gave everybody my phone number and my email address at that meeting, and told them I would be glad to answer their individual questions. But I don't want to start responding to attorneys' letters. I'd rather have an attorney respond to an attorney's letter.
Understood completely, and I don't necessarily disagree with your answers. It's rare from a staff standpoint that we get those questions this early in the process. Usually it's the day of the meeting and they're forwarded to planning commission, and then people come to the podium. So I was just thinking maybe getting ahead of that and being able to have those answers out there in the public packets when we go would be beneficial for people to understand those things before they come to a meeting. So we'll discuss that. And if I can, I might reword some and just get the gist so they can be answered and be in the packet.
Hunter, this is John Avent. I went through all the questions that was outlined by the attorney. My question to you and staff, what information haven't we provided to answer those questions to you guys?
Well, and
I think we addressed everything but the property values, and we're not going to address the property values.
Right. And that's what I was asking. I mean, this is not a requirement for our subregs. You certainly don't have to do this. What I was looking for, what staff, the way we review things as a planning department, is we're much more familiar with the vernacular than the general public. So having your explanation in your words, what was the opportunity we were given to do that? So, it's voluntary. Just looking for a narrative that kind of explained the stance on those questions from your perspective, and give you a chance to get ahead of that before the meeting. But you know, that's voluntary. We don't want to force that. If you're not comfortable doing it.
All right, thank you.
All right. Was there any other questions for Carmel Flats?
I don't have anything else.
Okay. Thank you. Item I, CZ 20.05 is a rezoning request that is going to be held over, awaiting a potential zoning amendment for the Highway Transitional District to go to the City Council. So we do not need to discuss that one. The next item, J, CZ 21.01 is a planned unit development with conditional annexation into the city of Fairhope for Overland PUD. Carla, if you've got audio better than earlier, let's try that again. Can you give us a sound check, Carla? Can't hear you. You want to just come down the hall and I'll go ahead and open things up and get started. I'll let Carla go through the review questions, but I do want to say, David, I appreciate the quick reaction. One of the main concerns I had was the stub streets, and we sent revisions or some comments yesterday, and you sent a revised plan today. So, man, that's quick turnaround, and we really appreciate that. While she comes on down, I'll get some things pulled up. While we're waiting, does by chance you want to touch base on this one? Well, there's the revised plans.
This is John Avent.
Hey, John.
Hey, one of the comments that Carla had was we originally had hammerhead cul-de-sacs on 3 of the stub out streets, or the streets going towards the west. And after talking to David Deal with SC Civil yesterday, I started looking at it, and we both decided that it would be better, rather than have the hammerheads, to have the connectivity from one street to the next, you know, for garbage and delivery and all this general connectivity. And actually her question spurred a better plan, in my opinion.
I agree that, you know, and there was a couple revisions here, and I think this gets a little closer back to the last one, which I like better than the hammerheads. And as you know, Fairhope's history and subdivision, you know, we want that connectivity. So having a few dead ends kind of was the antithesis of what they've been pushing for years. So I think this is a much better revision. And Carla's in now. Is that new version here?
Yes. Original. Yeah.
This one?
And then it's this one.
Oh.
The one. Oh.
We'll see.
That's the old.
Okay.
It's the one. That one.
Okay. Okay. There we go. Well, Carla, you want any other comments you want to have for the applicants?
The only, I sent the cover letter, and just like Hunter said, I just want to thank you for giving us something so fast to turn around to review. Really appreciate it. I think it looks a lot better than the previous one, and I think the property owners will really enjoy this connectivity. The only thing that I wanted to say was the utility easements. I didn't see anything that depicted the utility easements. And that was something that staff
Hey, Carla, this is David Deal. So on the easement comments, so you're looking for the proposed easements based on the utility design? Is that what you're looking for?
Correct.
Okay. You know, we had not designed this. It's not a final design. So my only question is, if I show easements on here based on our schematic utility plan, and it needs to change when we get into the actual design, that's not going to create a problem with our PUD approval, is it?
We're just that you're thinking about it now.
Okay.
Certainly substantial. Yeah, substantially.
No issues.
Okay.
I really, the other comments that Carla had, there was just some points of clarification, a couple things she wanted me to outline on the actual PUD plan. It was in the narrative, but she wants me to add it to the PUD plan. I don't see a problem with any other comment. I think we're good.
Okay.
Hey, Hunter,
Yes.
it's Jason. Hey, on this development, I would ask them to reach out to myself. There is going to be some challenges with sewer for this development. So I would like to talk early on before they spend a lot of time on a design to reach they're going to have to be some upgrades.
Okay. And here's what we did on the last PUD we reviewed. It happened to be on 98 and Valanta. It's going to Planning Commission in February. There were known sewer issues on that as well. We just kind of memorialized that it's known and can be handled at the follow-up preliminary plat in between there. So we didn't have to tie that in and hold up the PUD. If you're comfortable with that, we can certainly address it and highlight what the issues are. But actually providing the solution at this phase, I don't think we need to get to. So I think that's a great thing. And David, Larry, whoever needs to, please reach out to Jason so you're aware of what those challenges are, and
Sure.
we can kind of keep those in our notes. Okay. There anything else? There's a question out there, and Larry, we talked about this, and you were absolutely right with the tree ordinance and when a screen and all those required. But I'd like it, and this is a PUD, so the Planning Commission can kind of make that requirement. But I'd like for y'all to look at, is there anything that can be done on the eastern edge to provide some kind of a screen, fence, hedgerows, something along those lines? Just take a look, Larry or David, and see if there's anything you can come up with that y'all be okay with.
Okay.
All right. Any other questions on Overland PUD? All right. We're getting down to the Fairhope Falls SD 21.06. This is final plat approval for Fairhope Falls Phase 3, 33 lot subdivision. This will be Mike. And I will ask anybody that's not needing to talk, stay muted. The background noise really throws us off. Let's pull up some switch plans. And which ones do you need, Mike? Let's go. There we go for that one.
It's going to be, yes.
Okay.
So this is phase 3 of Fairhope Falls. The first and second phase and third phase are all accessed currently from Highway 104. It's close to the intersection of 104 and Langford Road. This is not in the permitting jurisdiction or police jurisdiction of the city of Fairhope. So this review, also going through review through Baldwin County. Had just some general comments. Most everything was in order. I've been in contact with the Dewberry team. They've already provided the video inspection. That was something I didn't see the CD that was in the file, but we do have that. I got comments from the county where they have reviewed that and provided things that needed to be adjusted for it. Quick comments, I'll just run through the list, is we need to install the stop sign blanks for future through streets at the stub outs. The O&M plan and agreement, that needs to be revised to capture the entire development. Little history of the development, it sat idle for a while, was revived, and has come through. So there's several pieces throughout the years that have been put together. So it's one way that we can capture the entire site all in one. And then what we'll be able to do, and we'll get to the next two cases in a second, but the additional phases 4 through 9 will be able to be amended and added to the O&M plan in the future. Confirm the installation of drainage improvements, and kind of what I was specifically looking at was in the wetland or in the drainage calculations and the drainage plan for phase 2 and 3. It showed that there was some type of structure that was going from a small wetland area and entering into what was labeled pond number 5. So just trying to ensure that that was actually installed the way it's proposed at the beginning. Water comments or comments from the water department were listed. Nothing major, added some stamp W's to the lanes and a few other things. Just noted to address any comments from Baldwin County. If there's anything that is going to significantly change the plat or anything that will alter something that Fairhope subdivision requires, note that so we can make sure that it's addressed in the Planning Commission's report. There was nothing really major on their list. And another note that the Fairhope Gas Department was not listed in the site data table. So we can, I don't think that was listed on there. If we just make that note and add it to it, we'll be good. Is there anybody from the Dewberry team got any comments on phase 3 of Fairhope Falls? Is anybody with the Dewberry team with us today?
And just make sure, I might have muted some of you, but I can't unmute. So double check your mics.
Hey, Mike, this is Buford. I promised you I would remind you about the O&M plan and agreement on phase 3 and how it affects phase 1 and 2.
There is some of the, one of the detention ponds, I believe, is located in phase 1. Is not functioning properly. There's an aerator that is still laying on its side. So part of the operations and maintenance plan being all these phases is to ensure that the drainage from phase 3, which is going through phase 2 and all intertwined in phase 1, is working right. Phase 1, just as a recap, all the drainage was done at the beginning to handle several of the phases, and all those ponds that are on there in drainage system works together. So we need to be sure that the aerator and all the drainage is working on the site properly before final approval. And if there's not anybody here with Dewberry today, we can move on to the next two cases, which is also going to be Fairhope Falls. Next is Fairhope Falls. Phase 4 and phase 5 are both preliminary. And this is following our recently approved Fairhope Falls West Village subdivision. It amended the previous village subdivision for Fairhope Falls. And I'll tie, for sake of time, I'll tie phase 4 and phase 5 together. They're very similar. For phase 4 and 5.
Just for a second, Mike, with our sharing, can anyone confirm that you see Fairhope Falls phase 4 on the screen?
We got it.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
We see a cover sheet, Hunter. That's it. No plan.
Yeah, and that was one of the first comment was our plans that were submitted didn't include an overall site plan or a plat inside of them. So that's one of the comments, is just to add that to it. What I do have that I can pull up here for everybody to see, just as a visual to where the site is located, is what we went through with the village subdivision that has a plan as a whole. And on the screen, the north part is phases 1, 2, and moving south, all of phase 1, 2, and 3. The left side of the screen, or the west side of southwest of the property, is the future phases. Phase 4, if you can see my mouse moving along, connects the existing phases to Langford Road, and phase 5 is the next phase and is located north of phase 4. And these two phases are going under preliminary plat at the same time. So if we add the plat and overall site plan to the full set of plans, on phase 4, the minimum lot size needs to be adjusted. It currently just reflects 8 acres. That's just a small error. Need to show the minimum finished floor elevations for the lots. Gas department was missing from the site data table. Need to provide the errors and emissions or insurance for the subdivision. And they're looking at the traffic study. There's some required improvements to State Road 104 and Langford Road. Has there been any correspondence with ALDOT or got any permits through them or any type of communication with them currently? And again,
Hi, this is Sharice Brannon with Dewberry.
Hey, Sharice, how are you today?
I'm good. How are you?
Doing great.
We have prepared the widening plans per the traffic study that we received, but we currently have another traffic study going on. So we're going to wait on that one to be sure of the improvements that are going to be required.
All right. So is ALDOT, have you talked with ALDOT and they're agreeing with what improvements need to be done at this time, or?
No, we have not submitted this to ALDOT yet.
Okay. Then if you'll just note that in the response back, that'd be great.
Okay.
How about any comments or correspondence from Baldwin County on this? I know you had submitted some information, I believe, or they had received it, but I don't know if they had time to get anything back to you.
This is on the subdivision?
Yes, ma'am.
No, we have not received any comments from them either.
All right. The next item for phases 4 and 5 is to revise the drainage narrative to include all the phases of development. And again, that's similar to the final for phase 3, is all these phases are working together. None of them are a standalone phase sustaining its own stormwater drainage. So we just need to make sure that the whole development is captured in the drainage narrative for these phases.
Okay.
And the amenities, didn't have any details on the amenities, and on the site plan that we have pulled up in phases 4, there's amenity H that is on here. That is the pool that is located. Need some final details on what that's going to look like, along with its exact location, and the CBU is located there. The only other amenities in phases 4 was J and M, which was the fence and the landscape buffer and the entrance sign. You just need to provide details for what those are going to look like as a final product. And phase 5, we have an additional amenity in it, which is indicated as K, which is the passive recreation area. The village site plan called out for there being some benches and a park area, not a park, but a park setting with benches and some landscaping around. So we're just looking to make sure that all those amenities are meeting up with what was approved in the village plan. And those were the basic comments that needed revisions on the actual plans. Some of the other things at the bottom of the letter was simply just to note and point out that sidewalks and street trees, they will be required before final plat. For the final plat of phase 3, those are bonded. That is something that has changed since the preliminary plat of phase 3. So for all future phases, this will hold true. Any preliminary plats expire after 2 years, and that a pre-construction meeting is required before land disturbance. And just to make sure that it's recorded for the subdivision, the community meeting that was held for Fairhope Falls West, the village subdivision, just in November, is satisfying the requirement for the community meeting for these preliminaries due to the short time frame in between them. It's been a continued discussion. And we'll need to receive comments back and any of the revisions by the 14th of January.
Mike, not to interrupt you, but I think you gave it to the end of your list real quick, and
Yep.
I'm sorry I stepped away for a second. Can I get clarification from Sharice? I know we've had a lot of conversations. You talked to me, Buford, about the amendments on the wetland. Some pretty big changes there. Have you gotten anything back from ADM yet on those
Yes,
permitting?
I'm sorry. Yes, we have gotten a letter from them. I can forward that to you.
Okay.
Yeah, that was somehow I missed over. That was right there in the middle of the letter, and I skipped straight over it. But that was, yeah. Any information we have on the wetlands or permits for enlarging the ponds, I know it was numbered pond 5 and pond 5 and pond 6 were both being expanded for this park for phase 4 and phase 5, and that again will kind of affect the overall drainage for the entire Fairhope Falls, not just phase 4 and 5.
Cerise, can you, and that is great. So that gives us what we need, but we wrote out in the upper pond, on phase 5 has 2 ponds, and you're tying in, combining the smaller one with the lower one. And there's some significant, height difference between the two. Is that smaller pond really deep, or how are you connecting those two with the different elevation? Is it going to change the water level?
You're talking about the non-jurisdictional wetlands, the little wetland pocket to the west of the larger pond?
Yes. Okay. I saw a boundary here. That's non-jurisdictional. Okay. I'm just.
Yes, sir, it is. But yes, what we just plan to, the water level will be, I believe the normal water will be a foot or 2 lower than what it currently is. I'd have to pull that back up and look at it again. We've surveyed it several times over the past several years, and the water level has always been different. But I can send something to you that shows the average normal water and what we plan it to be. But some of that non-jurisdictional wetland will be filled in, and then the rest of it excavated out to be the same elevation as the larger pond.
Okay. Great.
That is the end of the comments that I have is that's phase 4 and phase 5. So for the next 2 cases that we had on the agenda, the gas, I guess for the gas-borne utility comment I had for gas was that it will be fed from the existing Fairhope Falls, and there will also be off of Langford Road. I can't remember exactly how they call it, but it'll be the loop feed off of Langford Road. Just that's out there, the gas department knows that. Does anybody have any other questions or comments regarding the preliminary plat for phases 4 or phases 5 of Fairhope Falls? If not, I'll turn it back over to Hunter. We can move on.
I'll give everybody just a quick reminder. We did mute some of you, so if you do have any comments, you might be muted. If not, we will move on, and we'll give you a chance at the end before we cut the meeting off for anybody we might have missed.
Hey, Hunter.
Yes.
John Wise here. Did I miss my portion, or I wasn't sure how this was working? So.
No, we haven't made it to your agenda item yet. So give us.
Okay.
Let me.
So do I just mute myself back, and then you'll let me know when?
Yes, sir. We've juggled some pages around. Mike, let me see your copy of the agenda. We have shuffled around a little bit, and I've. All right. Okay, the next project is SD 21.09. This is the MOP review for Publix at Point Clear. Buford, we will
And
hand
Hunter,
over
if you
the
can,
screen to you.
yeah, if you can unshare your screen, Hunter. So good
Done.
morning, everyone. Good morning, everyone. Trey, Jen Wright, could you, would you sound off real quick so we know you're aboard?
Good morning.
Trey, good morning. Thank you for joining us. Trey, what I'm going to do is when I get my screen shared, give just a quick overview and then we'll jump right in. Okay, good morning, everyone. So you should have a drawing on your screen. And so as Hunter said, this is Publix at Point Clear. This is a 17-unit multiple occupancy project. Just to give you a quick overview, if everyone can see my screen. So this development, Publix, has been from the onset has been identified as one of the unit holders in the MOP. And this is at the intersection of Greeno Road and Old Battles Road. To give you a unit layout real quick, so the primary unit would be a Publix store, and similar to a lot of public stores that we see, we'll have a wing with other units available. So my count is about 10 units here. There's another 4,800 square foot unit, a standalone building right in here. We'll get to that just in a moment. And then 1, 2, 3, 4 out parcels available for units. The 2 areas shown in light red are existing residences that will remain residences. Their lot lines will rearrange as a part of the MOP process. The light green area is the green space area for the site that is part of the development, and we'll get into the details of that a little bit later. But what you'll have is about 10 existing parcels in that area. Will go through a replat process to rearrange them to form what you see right here. And then the MOP process is requesting the different units. So just a brief overview there. Another thing I'll call to everyone's attention, the highway improvements. So of course, this is Greeno Road, US Highway 98. You see this entrance right here, A-cell, D-cell lane. So a full service entrance here, a right in, right out entrance here with D-cell lanes, and then also an additional turn lane at the traffic light at the intersection of Old Battles and Greeno. And then you see a couple of secondary entrances, full service entrances that connect right into Old Battles Road. So that's kind of the layout. Retention area back here. This is also a unit. This is also a unit this is also a lot that can accept a unit as well. And then this area is part of the unit, as part of the lot that contains the public store and the wing right there. So that's just kind of an overview of the site. Trey, if we can jump in to the technical issues, and Richard, jump in and stop me at any moment you get ready. Trey, and Richard has taught me over the years, we're real cautious about downstream adverse effects. And so just wanted to get you to expound a little bit upon when our retention pond, when it does, either the control structure is draining or it's doing an overflow, that's going to flow to the west. This is north. It'll flow to the west, eventually join Point Clear Creek. And what we're worried about is Point Clear Creek runs to the south. It runs right around, it runs in between the lift station and one of the retention ponds at Old Battles Village, then goes underneath. It joins the conveyance system in the right of way along Old Battles Road. And Trey, if you could just kind of expound upon that a little bit and how your drainage design handles downstream adverse effects.
Yes, sir, Buford. I was going to actually put this in writing to you, but the summary of it is you kind of nailed it correctly. Our watershed model indicated, the entire watershed draining through there. It showed no adverse effects to the development as it proceeds to the north, intersects Point Clear Creek, then continues to the south under Old Battles Road, and then makes its way back toward the west, toward Mobile Bay. But without getting into the details in this meeting here, our calculations indicate that accurately, and I will add additional information to our response letter as part of our submittal to you next week.
And Trey, thank you for that. And what we're talking about is I pulled up the county's GIS map viewer, and so you see the routing of Point Clear Creek, and you see Old Battles Road. When you turn on the imagery, when it really grabs your attention when it shows up. So you see we have a lift station right here, and then we've got labeled as a detention pond. I think it's actually a retention pond for Old Battles Village. So Point Clear Creek is actually running right through here, then joins the right-of-way conveyance system here. So just wanted to beef up the language about all of that. So thank you for that, Trey. Richard, did I misstate any of that?
You did good, Buford.
Okay, you taught me well. Let's see, from technical issues, Trey, I think the only other major real technical issue just wanted to get you expound upon this a little bit, because the green space area is reserved right in here on this piece of property right here. And I guess what our question and concern was about is, how's that going to be restricted from being developed in the future?
Yeah, so what is not showing up in your drawing, and our submittal next week will clear it up for you, is that there will be a pedestrian trail that connects that, which is that green space, which is actually we're referring to as parcel 7, and ties it to the Publix tract, which is parcel 5, through a 30-foot pedestrian easement that will be landscaped and constructed as part of this development. The revised landscape plans that we'll submit next week will include that information in there. And as far as restricting it, it will be tied to a restriction on the plat and will be vetted into the development's ECR agreement, so that it ties lot 7 to lot 5, and then lot 7 is the only allowable use going forward is for open space. No development will be allowed on that tract.
Okay. All right. Hey, yeah, go ahead, Hunter, jump in.
Just to jump back real quick for drainage, and Trey, you're probably aware of this, but Eric brought a good point in our internal meeting last week. Downstream from this is one of the only licensed or registered dams in Baldwin County, and might trigger some things. So I know we'll continue, but at the western end of that pond that Buford has his mouth on is an actual dam. And if we have any questions on that, Eric, just wanted to make sure you are aware of that, just in case it had any impact on your design. But I'm sure you're aware of it, but just want to throw that out there.
Thank you.
Okay.
And Hunter, just one more thing, just a minute more here, something to ask Trey about. And this unit right here, and let me see if I can zoom in on it just a bit. And so this will be one outbuilding that is proposed in the MOP as we have before it right now. And Trey, what we're concerned about is this looks like some type of quick serve restaurant, or some type of use that does have a drive-through. And I guess what our concern and worry is stacking and queuing of traffic trying to get in there because of it being on this corner right here. And the ask is can this traffic flow be rearranged to try to improve some of the stacking and queuing, where maybe it can route through the more of the parking lot?
I mean, we've got a pretty decent queue in there now as it wraps around the building. There is one drive-through. It's the use of it has not been determined at this point. It would be 2 tenants there, one with a potential drive-through connection, but we've got for a small sandwich shop or whatever, I've got probably a couple hundred feet there stacking that would hold probably 10 cars or so. But I'll look at that, Buford, and see what that looks like. That stacking or anything that queues up in there is queuing up on the property. I think we've got ample space to hold that. So, but we'll certainly take a look at that some more. We're not back.
Right. And thank you, Trey, because I gave you a non-scientific statement, just from a shoot from the hip opinion about, it might possibly cause a traffic jam.
I mean, it's similar. The queue on this is similar to what I've done on a Dunkin' Donuts or something in different developments of this size. So historically, it's worked sufficient. So, but we'll certainly look at it some more.
All right, very good. Very good.
Trey, this is Hunter. I had just a couple of conversations, and I know we've got another meeting scheduled. We don't need to get too much in it, but since this is, and I know there's some future developing lots created here, but one of the concerns, in the landscape and all of the large trees kind of coming out in this area, something to just that's one thing we want to further discuss and see if there's any options on some of the landscaping around this area, maybe even the pond, maybe a little more detail on the parkland, but that's things that you were sent in comments, and we've already scheduled a meeting to discuss. So appreciate you meeting with us to hash those out.
Yeah, just so the group knows, I mean, our landscape architect is full steam ahead revamping that information to give you some more details on that. And so we're acknowledging that comment, and we're working on it to address it.
Thanks, Trey. Appreciate it.
All right, Trey, thank you. That's all I have, unless any other staff or any other participants have some questions. All right, with that, I will unshare.
Okay, we will now be moving to SD 21.10, and we'll go ahead and handle SR 21.01, both the MOP and site plan review for Magnolia mixed use, 26 unit project that has site plan review and MOP. I will share the screens on that one. Let me get that pulled up. There we go. Okay. So this is currently 2 empty lots on Magnolia Avenue, in between Section Street and Church Street. The proposed project is a 3-story building, and actually, let me just for the public, I'll kind of start with the elevations of the building. So 3-story, parking and 2 commercial units on the ground floor with 24 residential units on the upper 2 floors. The floor plan on the 2nd and 3rd floor is as shown on the screen, each with 12 units. I believe those are all, well, no, most are 684 square feet. And then the 2 on the front, 656 square feet. And then the ground floor, we have 2 400 square foot, what's listed here, but on the site plan listed as commercial spaces. And then the parking that is required for 1 parking space for 1 per residential unit is required on the ground floor. We can flip over to the site plan and take a look real quick. I'm going to pull up some other notes because this is 2 cases. Carla and I are kind of intermingling comments. But we'll just kind of go as we're looking through plans, and then we'll make sure we cover everything for you at the end. The garbage can area storage here, garbage is a big one. We kind of threw together a quick picture of what garbage cans on the street front, because there's nowhere else for those to be gathered, would look like. So a little concern there, need some clarification on exactly what that is, what size container. How many are they rolled out? Who's responsible? Just give us some of that information and details. The comprehensive plan, and we've talked about this in the pre-conference meeting. The amount of commercial space, and if you look at the historically what's happened, especially in Magnolia here, parking was required toward the rear of the building, and that kind of forced buildings to move to the front and not cover every square inch of the of a building and of a lot. And the emphasis has always been on that streetscape and providing commercial and retail and for a downtown. And one of the comments we had was, you know, at the pre-conference meeting is there's just not enough commercial space here. This is, we don't allow multifamily in this zoning. We allow mixed use, and the trade-off there is so we have some commercial space and in downtown, and there's approximately 7% of the ground floor. The Planning Commission has made a recommendation to the City Council to amend the zoning code that would require ground floor to be 50%. We're recommending see if there's anything that we can do to include more commercial space on the ground floor. And that was the comments. We're going through the two lots will have to be replatted before building permit, and a hold harmless for balconies over the sidewalk. I think everyone involved in the project has been through that before.
Gonna stop you real quick before we get too far down the line. On the hold harmless, historically that's been something we provide the city at the time of building permit. But I know on the last project, y'all wanted it. I mean, and speaking of the corner of Church and Magnolia, y'all wanted it as part of the planning review. Is that y'all's new requirement now to have it at this point, or are you just making us aware that we're going to have to provide that at the time of building permit? We're starting to get notarized documents on something that hasn't been approved. So I was trying to figure out where we need to place that in, if we need to just start submitting those on any of these balconies over sidewalks in the future on MOP and site plans.
We'll allow some negotiation on that, Larry. What our concern is it's tied to this case and then is not forgotten when we go to building permit. So
I don't mind either way. It's not a difficult document. You just enter in a couple of names and everything and have the owner notarize it.
That would be easier to handle it now, and then we have it on file whenever building permit's done. And it can be tied to the site plan we're reviewing today.
All right, and then I know it's probably not what you want to hear, but from our pre-application meeting to this, we actually did double the square footage of commercial, because in that pre-app meeting we had 400 square feet, and we added another unit. I know it's not, you're not hearing what you want to hear, what your goal is, but it did go up, and we lost units because of it. Yeah. We're just trying to make at least a uniform front along Magnolia being that commercial space, other than the drive out to get to the back parking. And my client's biggest issue is with commercial space right now is he's got commercial units he can't lease right now off of Bancroft. And, right now the residential part is working really well, and the commercial is sitting vacant. And that's going to be a complexity, right now in this area. They're having a hard time, leasing out these spaces. What people are wanting is more of a live work, where they can work out of their place in downtown, and they can walk to most places that they need to go. And that's kind of the concept of what he was looking at here, is having that ability for, we got a whole new generation of workers coming out that work, out of their homes, with all the wonderful technology we have these days. It's become a lot more people are doing it. So,
right. Hey, Hunter, also, the upstairs, it's not clearly defined, but we redesigned the front so it looks, it's got storefront, and those units will be reserved for more business oriented, not true residential. They're designed like residential, but they'll be for more of a live work type tenant. In the pricing, we handle that through the pricing of them.
Well, and John, what I would say on that, because we talked about that. I mean, we just so everyone else knows, we were looking at all options, and one of the thoughts there was, okay, if you had a live work, and those front became offices, but there are bedrooms and kitchens shown in there, and they're 650 square feet. So there's options. A simple solution from our side, and it's again, just like we didn't make you happy, or you didn't make us happy. I know we don't either. But if some of those units could become 2-bedroom, it would cut down on the required parking, and you might be able to expand the commercial, without, because if you reduce the number of units, it's not the number of beds, but the number of units, you could potentially increase the ground floor commercial. But it's something to discuss and something to review. We just got comments out to you yesterday, and there's time in between. And if we need to get together to talk about that further, we certainly will. And we'll make the time.
Well, I mean, just my comment would be that, if you're in the retail industry, deep spaces don't do well. In fact, typically, once you get deeper than 30 or 40 feet, it just gets harder and harder to lease the space, because people want lineal, they want frontage. And so this particular piece of land is very limited on the frontage. It only has 80 feet or 70 feet of frontage. It's 23, 30, and anyway. So if you've got to access the property for parking, so when you do that, you're just very limited on what you can do, other than to do some of the commercial upstairs, which is what we're talking about doing. And going, and also another comment about that on the going to 2 bedrooms, your requirements may be that it only requires 1 parking place, but reality is, from a leasing standpoint, I need the same number of parking places.
Yeah, and I'm going to switch screens real quick, so I'll show you kind of, market is certainly something that we want to be conscientious of, but it can't control everything the way this downtown develops. And one of the key ingredients of the CBD is to develop like historic, the fabric of downtown. And if you look at the buildings on Magnolia around you, every one of those are providing a drive to the back, and it is a smaller footprint. So they have some of the same challenges, and we're able to address it. And it is a different market right now. We fully admit that, but we hope buildings are going to last. The city's been around for 25 years now. So we hope this building will be there quite a long time too, and see different markets, and can thrive in all of those markets. So just take a look, see what you can do. We're kind of what the planning commission, and that's our goal right now. Based on the recommendation they've made, what their feelings are, and we just don't want you to be blindsided by that. So if you can address those concerns, I think it would go a long way.
Yeah, I'm a little confused, because I feel like I've designed a building that meets the criteria, what's laid out. I mean, I feel like we've designed a building that meets your requirements, and so the only thing I can do is go up on the commercial. I mean, if you want more commercial, I can make more of it on the upper floors. But I'm limited on parking. My lot is only so big, so I have to put the parking on the lot. Whether it's underneath or outside, it's the same difference. It's still the parking's the parking.
Okay. Well, send us what your revisions are, and we'll take a look. Moving on, because we've got a few others. The utilities, and both these comments were on where are some of the utilities located. One of the challenges of building kind of lot line to lot line, by having parking in the rear, and that which is a requirement of the zoning code, and pushing the building to the front, it allows a lot of these things to happen back of house. Saw the water meter, but if gas is provided, where are those going? Electrical transformers, some of those connections, just fill in the blanks there.
We can get that.
Yeah, potentially if you can, we've got another backflow preventer. Water is handled on one side of the building. The sewer connection was on the other side. I don't know what that physically looks like above ground, but there was a question here. It's not a requirement, but maybe looking at a screen wall gate to access those areas. If it's just going to be stacks of utility connections. Let's see. Larry, based on what you said with the live and work, this seems like this is more long-term rentals, or condos.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
So not short-term rentals.
They will not be short-term, no.
Okay. Okay, so there's some comments there that can just come back to us. Elevations are provided. We didn't see materials on those buildings, so if you can revise those and just show us what the materials are, that would be great. Kind of roof plan showing, the roof equipment height, and that you've got a parapet wall, so that's actually being screened. We do have public parking in front of this. That's not shown on the plan. We'd like to see that shown, and how many of those are going to be impacted by this. I don't know how the curb, that's Larry for you to design. If there is a radius curb, show that so we can kind of see how many of those parking spaces existing it's cutting into.
The existing curb out there is just a valley curb that everybody, the sidewalk's flush with it. So that's why we're just calling out a thicker section of concrete for them to drive over to get into the back.
Okay.
That section of downtown does not have your standard curb and gutter. It's just a valley there.
Perfect. Can you show how many?
Yeah, we'll show the parking spaces. I believe we are not going to lose any. That center area is already hatched off, if I'm not mistaken. But we'll verify that and show that.
Okay. It is hatched off. Is that? We were just.
I believe it is. We had made the request a while back when that lot was being used for staging on something else because equipment was getting stuck in there. And
okay.
So I believe it's hatched off.
Okay.
We'll verify that.
All right. Any room to put a couple of tree wells in and get some street trees? Not a requirement. We do, that helping that streetscape is, I think you do have an 8-foot sidewalk.
We do have an 8-foot sidewalk, and I mean, I can definitely add some locations for tree wells.
Okay.
Yeah, try to do that. That'd be nice.
Okay. So we already hit the garbage and, coordinate that with Richard, but show it on the plan so the planning commission, my recommendation, show that on the plan so the planning commission doesn't go to worst case scenario as well in their mind when they're looking at this. Was there anything else, Carla, on that? We confirmed that 8-foot sidewalks are there. I think it's just concrete, no pavers at all.
Yeah, right now we're just on concrete.
Okay. So you got some sewer comments you've already discussed. Sounds like that's taken care of. I'm sorry, I'm blending two projects. Larry, were you aware of the doghouse and all on this one for the manhole?
Yes, we received that comment, and we'll modify that connection for the sewer to be a doghouse manhole.
Okay, great, thank you. And fire hydrant we're a little uncertain if that's within the.
I'll measure that distance, as part of another project. That fire hydrant's being relocated, to the other side, still in the same general area, but just on the other side of the tree. Speaking of Magnolia and Church development,
Sure.
that was one of the requests, that it be moved to away from the building. So, I need to measure it, make sure we're within 450 feet. If not, we'll provide one in one of these 3-foot strips so it's not up against the building.
Okay. And you do have some, I don't want to interpret fire code, but you might have options if the pressure is good enough to increase that distance a little bit. So we can check with Eric on that and see if that's an option. Would depend on the pressure. I think that's all the comments we had as staff. Eric, are you still with us? I muted you on the phone. You had your phone for audio. If you're still with us, I think you have to hit *6 to unmute on a cell phone.
the call?
I never saw him, Hunter. I was looking at our participants, and I don't think Seth ever joined.
Okay. All right. Well, everyone have a great Friday, great weekend, and we'll be in touch and look forward to hearing from most of the responses. So thanks for your time.
Thanks, everybody.